This video is made possible by Ray's Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram in Fox Lake, Illinois. Ray's is home to Ray's Price Promise, priding themselves on transparent car purchases with no hidden fees. Check them out on the web or in person at their Fox Lake location.
Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2002 Chrysler Prowler. Up front is a 3.5 liter V6 and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here Chrysler Prowler for many reasons, but it should be pretty obvious. This thing is so weird, it's so strange, it's very different, it's so iconic 2000s and yet so retro and futuristic. It's an insanely weird vehicle and I'm excited to share that with you guys today. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise coming soon. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 3.5 liter V6 under the hood. Well, it makes about 253 horsepower. That's actually quite the generous power bump over the first couple years of the Prowler. Now, this is a Chrysler Prowler. However, this car started off as the Plymouth Prowler. And unfortunately, Plymouth was dissolved in the year 2000, so this crossed over to the Chrysler Prowler for the last two model years of 2001 and 2002, which this makes it the very last model year of the Prowler. Now, the V6 isn't really anything too special. It's used in a lot of other vehicles from Chrysler at the time, even their Chrysler Pacifica, of which I own one. So I know this engine pretty well, and it's always done the job. It's not super powerful. It's not anything to boast or write home about, but it works. Similarly, down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, this was one of the first vehicles to get Chrysler's auto stick, meaning you could plus minus shift gears on your own if you'd like to. It's not a manual transmission, but you can plus minus if you'd like, and that ended up trickling down to other Chrysler, Jeep, and Dodge products of the era, which is pretty cool to see. However, something interesting that I didn't know about the Prowlers is that they're actually rear transmissioned like a Corvette. There's actually a torque tube running from the engine to the transmission in the back. Kind of interesting for sure. Last but not least, of course, the Prowler is rear-wheel drive. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have one single tachometer gauge. On the steering wheel, I get cruise control settings on the left and right, and then I get a Prowler logo right in the center. I love this. Obviously, I've never driven a Prowler, so seeing this little badge in front of me is very, very special to me. Off to the left, I have my headlight switch and vent, and moving on to the door, I have these crudely tacked on mirror controls, and then I have the power locks and power windows pulled directly from the second generation Dodge Ram, and I'm sure other products. Moving into the center, this is where I find all of my gauges. On the very left, I get my voltage, then I get my oil pressure, speedo in the center, as well as my odometer, what gear I'm in, things like that. And then off to the right, I get my fuel and my coolant temperature. I love the fact that the outside paint carries on in here. Very hot rod, which we'll talk about later on. And very few cars these days come with some form of exterior paint on the interior. I can only really think of the ND Miata, the current generation Mazda MX-5, that has exterior paint on the interior. I think it's a nice little touch. Moving down into the center, I have really technically two climate control vents, but they're kind of morphed into one. And then I get the radio. This was in like every Chrysler product of the era. Again, my second gen Dodge Ram had the exact same radio, and it is bringing back tons and tons of memories, all which are positive. I also have auto volume off to the left. This is very interesting. I don't know if I've seen this in a car, but I can turn the auto volume to low, off, or high. Very strange. I also get a 12-volt power outlet and my climate controls down below. The climate controls do look pretty funky. I have rear defrost and AC controls on the actual knobs, which is pretty interesting. Temperature off to the right, and then recirculating off to the far right Very, very odd setup. Continuing with the strangeness, moving up onto the center console, I do have the shifter itself. Like I said, it is that auto stick shifter. And then I have a handbrake off to the right and a cup holder down below. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Chrysler Prowler, and it looks like it would pass. But unfortunately, the big friggin' bottle's just a touch too big, and so the Prowler will not accept it. Then I do get a little center console and the seats. The seats are very comfortable. Again, they have the same Prowler logo you find on the steering wheel on the seats, and I absolutely love it. These things look super cool. They're comfy, and honestly, I have no complaints about them. However, speaking of seats, we don't have any back seats, so let's hop around back and we'll take a quick look at the trunk. All right, so because nothing on this car can ever be normal, in order to open the trunk, it actually opens up this way. All right, so you have to come in here, you have to press that yellow button, and then up over here, there's a latch, and then you gotta climb in and out of this thing. This comes up like so, and then you can bring the trunk up. So this is the trunk of the Plymouth Prowler. Can't imagine you can store a whole lot of things in here. I was expecting it to be bigger because, well, look at the rear end of the car. I was just expecting more. However, if we do want to put the top fully down, come in here, undo that clasp, then you can finally lift it and push it back. Oh my God, was this a complicated process. Way harder than it needed to be, but then you can close that up. Put that back down, close this up, and then finally the roof of your Chrysler Prowler is finally off. That was a lengthy process. It took me about 8 minutes to do. Now obviously you could do it better, but I would highly recommend practicing it before a storm cloud randomly comes and you're going to be hosed trying to put the top up, and it's all these steps and blah 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 and things like that. So annoying, but it works. It's done. This is what it looks like without a top. Now we got to talk about the looks, and obviously this is the most polarizing part of the Chrysler Prowler. First of all, before we do a walk around, let's talk about those front wheels. It actually has an open wheel design. Now, of course, there are bumpers and fenders and things like that, but look at that. You can actually see the suspension components. The rear end of the car is way larger than I ever thought possible on a vehicle. It has really wide tires at the back and really, really tiny rear taillights. It's very, very strange. But let's now do the walk around. This particular Prowler is finished in Inca Gold Pearl Coat, which was only available here in 2002, and they only put it on 616 Prowlers. So the production numbers of Prowlers were low anyway. They made just over 11,000 of them, but only 3,170 were under the Chrysler name for the last 2 years. So there was only 3,170 of these Chrysler Prowlers made. So let's get on to my final thoughts. First of all, I want to talk about what it's like to drive. It sucks. The engine is kind of lazy. The transmission has no idea what it's doing. But more so than that, the actual ergonomics inside the car is insane. I have no visibility. Left and right is bad. Front, not great. Rear doesn't exist. I feel like I'm piloting a cave. Now, I will say, driving it with the top off is definitely the experience you should do. This is 100% better, but it doesn't quite solve my visibility issues. Yes, I can actually see left and right now. Very nice to be able to do that, but I'm 5'11" and I still get this bar because the windshield is so low. It's directly in my vision, this bar up here, obviously the top of the windshield. If it was a little bit taller, I'd be able to see, but I'm not that tall and it's kind of hard to see around it. But you do get that top off Prowler experience. 100% this is how this car should be driven. But the worst of all, the biggest sin is the door. The door barely opens. So if you are not a professional gymnast, it might be a little hard to get in with the top on. So my personal thoughts on the driving experience are, this thing's awful. However, let's talk about why I love this car and I finally actually understand this car. So back in this era, there were a lot of American manufacturers trying to do throwback designs. We saw that obviously with the PT Cruiser of the times, again by Chrysler, but we also saw it on the other side of the table at GM. they had the Chevy SSR, which was a retro-styled pickup truck. Ford had the Thunderbird. And so there was a big movement in the early 2000s for these retro-styled vehicles. I think baby boomers finally had enough money to play around with, and they wanted to buy vehicles that reminded them of their childhood or earlier years. And so that's exactly what this car was meant to be. This was designed to be a 1930s style hot rod that you could buy in the modern era. And I mean, look at this 1932 Ford hot rod that I photographed last year, and then look at this. You can see those design cues sort of bleeding through, which is very, very interesting. And so would this car be better with a manual transmission, even though it was never offered with one? I think so. If it got that V8, they were doing Magnum V8s at the time, would it have been a better car? Yeah, I think so. But that's also missing the point of the Prowler. The honest-to-God truth and purpose of the Prowler is so that you could buy it and take it to Cars and Coffee on Sunday. That is it. Have people daily driven these? Of course. But my friend Caleb also daily drives a mail truck from 30 years ago. So it's not the best barometer when it comes to the human condition. But now I finally understand these cars. And the moment came, actually the other day, I was leaving my girlfriend's house and I came to a T intersection, and the crossroad was a really long, windy road that goes through a prairie. And I looked to my left and I saw an older couple in a Chevy SSR with the top down. They were holding up traffic, doing about 10 under the speed limit, but it was a Sunday. It was an afternoon, the sun was out, birds were chirping, and they were enjoying it. They were just out for a cruise. The car looked like it had never even seen a cloud. It was immaculate. And just seeing that older couple in that SSR made me realize what these cars were all about. Sunday cruises. Something that's not going to give you the headaches of a hot rod while still giving you the hot rod experience. Hot rods are modified cars. That's literally what they are, and with that comes a lot of headaches. They overheat. They're clunky, they don't ride nice. They're a pain to start up, but they're flashy, they're iconic, they have these cool shapes. That's what's cool about hot rods. Well, Chrysler then just made a modern hot rod. They took away the sucky parts of owning a hot rod, still gave you the cool, amazing paint jobs. The rarity, the scarcity. Again, only under 12,000 of these were ever made and 3,000 with this badge. They gave you something you could walk into Chrysler in the early 2000s, say, I would like that car. You could drive it home and take it to Cars and Coffee every Sunday until it becomes an actual classic, of which I think it genuinely is. That's what this car is all about. So people complain all the time, oh, it should have gotten a manual, it should have gotten a V8, should have gotten this, that, and the other. Maybe, but a manual and a V8 are good for cars that are meant to be driven. This is supposed to be parked up and look pretty. And you know what? It does a really good job of that. This is hands down one of the strangest automobiles I've ever reviewed here on the channel, and that's saying a lot, having reviewed over 880 cars. But that's what made these things so special, is that they were different. They pushed the boundaries. When was the last time you saw a car on the road with an open wheel setup? I can guarantee you it wasn't recently, and I can also guarantee you it was probably a Prowler, which only adds to the story of this car. This is a unique one, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm very, very thankful that I was given the opportunity to drive it. And that is all thank you to Ray's Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram in Fox Lake, Illinois. They have been absolutely awesome to work with. They have tons and tons of vehicles on the lot, a staggering amount of vehicles. They've been absolutely awesome to work with. They got me in the seat of one of these and have allowed me to check this vehicle off my bucket list. Please go check out Ray's Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. Their information is up on the screen, as well as linked in the description below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.